only thing I ever thought I would be and I wanted to be was a marine engineer.
Wow.
I had no interest of studying abroad. It dawned on me that, okay, I've actually made a certain application. Let me go back to follow on it. That's when I realized that I had actually gotten the scholarship and all of that.
Wow.
So it's things that's off my head. I had never thought. Like the most menial jobs you can think of. You know, working as a bricklayer, working on the farms. So I think that's where my first full hands-on knowledge of getting involved in the farm started from, right? Where you could do 6 straight hours. You're just bent down. Either you're picking watermelons or you're picking tomatoes, and then by the time you want to stand up, you realize that a whole lot of damage has been done to your back. Like, it was intense.
Hello, welcome again to the King Edosa Show. Today we have a very inspiring entrepreneur who has built Winich Farms with his co-founder from the very scratch to where they are able to raise over $3 million in pre-finance. Right? Stay back and enjoy this very amazing entrepreneurial journey. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for setting out time to come on our show. First, we'd like you to share with us, how did you get started on your entrepreneurial journey? How did you get started and you get to this point?
Thank you so much once again for having me, for inviting, for hosting. So it's actually very funny to think that right now I'm actually solving problems, and because, you know, from my background, how I started, it was not in the picture, right? But you see, the amazing thing about how life unfolds is at different levels and at different times, new things unfold themselves. But the most important thing is at every point you are doing your best, you are giving your best shot, and you are ensuring that you are as prepared as you can be. So when I was growing up, maybe in my primary school, the only thing I ever thought I would be and I wanted to be was a marine engineer.
Wow.
But to also make that even more interesting is the fact that my dad is also a marine engineer. Right? And, you know, fast forward into when I got admission into university. I got admission into University of Uyo. Of course, they were not offering marine engineering. But before then, I've tried a couple of times to the Marine Academy in Akwa Ibom, right? 2-3 times. At every point, I always fell off at the last point. So you would go for paramilitary training of like a week. And so it was always at that point that I was always dropped off. So it was after the tryout, I'm like, okay, let me chase something else, right? But the dream and the goal of the marine engineer never died. So I got into University of Uyo at end of 2012 into 2013. I'd gotten into my second semester, if I'm not mistaken. But before I got into my second semester, my brother then had also gotten a partial scholarship to study in the US. So now I'm giving you real stories that the world has not heard of. So he was actually already preparing for his SAT, if I'm not mistaken, process. So at several times he had to go to the embassy, you know, in all of those preparations. So one of those days when he went, he saw all of these agents who also do travel and processing, sharing some certain flyers about how you could get either a partial scholarship or a full funded scholarship. So some universities in Turkey and in Cyprus. And then he was like, I think my brother can actually also take advantage of this. So he sent me the flyers, shared a couple of links, and then told me I could try. So this is it. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Prior to that time, I had no interest of studying abroad. No interest whatsoever. Like, so when he was actually chasing his US dreams, I could literally have done same. But I was not interested. I've always been one who loved my nation and my country so much, right? So when they sent it, I was reluctant a bit, but I'm like, well, there's really nothing to lose out here. And then I did. And then shortly after, they went on the very long strike that happened in 2012 or early 2013.
Okay.
It was a 6-month strike.
Whoa.
Right. But now this was the early point. We actually didn't know it was going to span 6 months.
That long.
Right. So when the strike started, it dawned on me that, okay, I actually made a certain application. Let me go back to follow on it. That's when I realized that I had actually gotten the scholarship and all of that.
Wow.
So it was now for me to start the process. And fast forward into it, I processed everything. Funny enough, now this is where it gets tricky.
Okay.
I was able to complete my process, I got my visa, and I traveled out.
Wow.
My brother had not left yet.
Whoa.
I got in, it moved smoothly. I did excellently well. But there's something that they always do when you are before you get into your final year.
Okay.
You would have to come back to do your series.
Okay.
Right? Which would require, for marine engineers, you'd have to go get on a vessel, sail for at least 6 months. So all of the theoretical knowledge and information you had gotten is expected for you to now go and practicalize it. So that's where things changed a bit. But even before then, schooling abroad has their differences. When you school in somewhere like maybe the US, Canada, UK, there's the opportunity to work and school, right? Your time frame is scheduled in such a way, at least you get maybe 16 to 20 hours a week too. So it's still flexible and convenient. For those of us who school in Cyprus, that's not the case. As a matter of fact, if you are schooling, you are not allowed or expected to work. Your visa only or your permit only covers you as a student.
Wow.
So when you have to work, it is termed illegal. Right? So it's now you having to be very sensitive, and at that point I had no other option. Like I said, now what I was getting from home could barely keep me up for my rent. I have other utilities, so paying rent is one thing. Utilities are another thing. Then your own basic upkeep and necessities are another thing. So this really wasn't cutting it anymore. So of course I had to work illegally, and then these were the things that's off my head. I had never thought. Like the most menial jobs you can think of. Working as a bricklayer, working on the farms. So I think that's where my first full hands-on knowledge of getting involved in the farm started from, right? Where you could do 6 straight hours. You're just bending down. Either you're picking watermelons or you're picking tomatoes. And then by the time you want to stand up, you realize that a whole lot of damage has been done to your back. Like, it was intense. It was really intense. But, it came to that point where I realized, no, this is not for me. Like, how long do I... it became more of the case of the prodigal son, where he started doing them. Like, in the worst case, if I even go home, I will find food to eat. Like, if I was in Nigeria, I cannot think that. So to give an I learned how to do bricklaying work that you see plastering. That was the field, like plastering and painting. I learned it so well. So well. Or is it working in the poultry farms where you literally have to pick eggs and then put it in the machines that just trolleys it down to it was a series of... And so fast forward to the point where it was now time for me to come back home for my series.
Okay.
And I was very excited because now it was, I think, 3 years plus of about 4 years. I had not seen my family, so I was really looking forward to it. But beyond it, what I was even looking forward to the most is that experience on sea.
Right.
Now, this childhood
dream
fantasy was going to become a reality, right? I really looked forward to it. And then I remember when I came back, thanks to my dad and the fact that he was already in this space, he was able to pull a few strings and I was able to get a place. And good enough, he was on the same vessel where he was working. So it was, when a father is grooming the child in the same line, it was just an amazing one for me.
You are the Chief Operating Officer and the co-founder for Winich Farms.
Yes.
Enlighten us. What is Winich Farms all about?
So first of all, I would like to say Winich Farms is an agri-fintech company.
Okay.
So to help give better context, so it's a blend of agriculture, finance, and technology. So it used to just be an Agri-Tech company, as we used to say, which was just agriculture and technology. But looking at what we have done, what we are doing, and what's still in the pipelines, right? It only just makes sense that Agri-Tech doesn't cover it, right? So first of all, what we do is we ensure that we provide market access for the rural smallholder farmers, right? And by so doing, what it means is we connect the farmers directly to market, right? Cutting away the very long chains of middlemen. So when you talk about middlemen in this case, sometimes it goes up to 4, 5, 6 layers of middlemen before the product gets to the processors, who then process into the final products that we now have at the market, right? So just imagine a farmer wants to sell his beans or his rice, his paddy rice. The first level of middleman comes to buy it at the cheapest price, marks up 10 naira and sells to the next middleman. His own value or his only essence in this chain is not bringing in necessarily any value. It's just making money for himself. And then he sells to the next person who repeats the same thing, not producing or providing any value, just mark up the money and sell. So imagine we have up to 5, 6 layers of that. Ask yourself, for a product that from farm gate goes for, let's say, 15,000 naira for a bag, add 6 layers of middlemen like that. The next question you should ask yourself is, how much will that product get to the processors? And don't forget, the processors are the ones who bring in the value added, right? Processes into finished products. They also definitely want to make a margin. They definitely add their margin. What do you think the cost of product will be at the market? But you see, while that is the circle, for us, why we are more concerned in the whole grand scheme of things, beyond the general public or the general masses. You know, we always say that for Nigerians, we have developed this mentality to be able to adapt to things and just move on. We are very concerned about the smallholder farmers. And the reason is because they go through what we call the vicious circle of poverty. It's an unending vicious circle. So like the typical example I just gave now, imagine the farmer who sold that product, when he sold that product, the raw product at 15,000 naira for a bag, right? 50 kg bag. And he's expected to go and buy the finished product that he cultivated. Like, I started this process, like it started with me. When I sold at 15,000 naira, and I'm going to go and buy from the market at 105,000 naira. They cannot buy it. They can't buy it. The reality on ground is they can't afford it. So the truth is now they're subjected to this. The finished product also have grades. We have the finest and the best grade, which a lot of times typically we like to call the imported or foreign grade. Goes for maybe as much as 100,000, 75,000, depending on. We still have the lowest grade of that, which probably will still be at maybe 60, 55,000 naira. A lot of times that is what the farmers who make this product available are able to settle for. And the circle continues again. So when we looked into all of this, now we see that the problem is not external of itself. The problem is in the whole, the value chain, in the supply chain. So that was the first things that we looked out for to be able to solve. And in other words, it's also not to completely kick out the middlemen, right? It is only to give the middlemen a better organized platform. So you have another person who want to buy. Now, rather than all of you selling to each other and marking up, why don't all of you work in as agents and only connect directly to the processors? You are still going to earn your commission. But don't mark up and sell to another person. let's all come together, work as a platform, as an agent network. But the difference is now we're only selling to processors. So it means if we are buying directly from the farmers at 15,000 naira, it does not have to get to the processor at 70,000 naira. It can get to the processor at 30,000 naira. Because now all those markup is cut out. So if it gets to the processor at 30 naira, the processor can process and the product will eventually get to the market at 15 naira. Everybody would afford it and everybody is comfortable. So do you see that? That's one. The second aspect of it now, of course, all of this is built on the technological rail.
Okay.
Right? What that rail does is it gives you real-time traceability and trackability from farm gate to when it gets to the processor.
Okay.
So we have what we call agents that work with the farmers, because like we know, most rural smallholder farmers are not very tech savvy, as a lot of them are not very educated. I'm excited because the dynamics around that is gradually changing. Because yes, while a lot of them are not very educated, technology has become a thing that has come to stay. So it's no longer a conversation of you want to or you don't want to. It is what it is. Yes. As a matter of fact, we're even going beyond that already. AI and the likes of it, has coming. It's no longer just technology. It's becoming more broad and more advanced. So it's not a conversation are you interested in you have to catch up or you become part of those that will be left out completely, right? But still, while all of this is happening, we realize that a lot of the farmers are not so tech savvy. So definitely we need people now. That's where the agents come in who can actually operate this technology for them. And what does the technology actually do? Is at the point of aggregation, at the point where the farmers are bringing up their products, the agents is taking up this data. So there are basic data that we collect. First of all, the farmer's KYC is the size of his land, the crops that he's cultivating, the time frame it takes to cultivate. Now, when you are bringing the product to us, like drop of the product, we take the quantity of the product, we take the moisture content, we check the quality content of the product in terms of moisture and external matters, shafts, and all of those things. They take all of those information and it's imputed in our data. So we have those data in real time, irrespective of wherever someone like me may be in the world. I can see this. But now, this is where the finance now also comes in. So like we know, while they are rural smallholder farmers, the truth is they are also the most neglected aspect when it comes to the financial system. A lot of them are either unbanked or underbanked. So as a result of that is they also cannot scale their businesses because they cannot get things like insurance, things like credit and the likes. Very typical. When you want to get credit from any bank, when you walk into the bank, the typical thing they will ask you is, let's have your statement. No, let's even have your bank statement. They want to see what your transaction history is. It's based off that they can say, okay, you are qualified to get this. But the typical rural smallholder farmer is underbanked, right? So with that, it means he cannot be. But now with this information, what we have done is been able to put all of this data together. If a farmer has his land size of, let us say, 1 hectare, and then for every season or every cycle is able to cultivate paddy rice, from that hectare of land is able to get about maybe 50 to 60 bags. These 50 to 60 bags he transacts with us. Necessarily not all of that, but you see, these are now very important data informations or data points that we have collected that when you tender it to any financial institution, it gives you a record. It gives you history of, okay, if this person has done, and a lot of these farmers, like we know, that is all they do. They've done this for 15, 20, 25, 30 years. That is a lot of story. That's a lot of data, right? But because they have not been anywhere where these data have been able to, they've not collected this data. So it suddenly makes that sector or that aspect as though it is not inclusive. So that's where we have brought in the embedded finance, and I'm excited to also say that as of now, we are the only Agri-Tech company out of Nigeria that has been able to not just introduce financial or embedded finance to the farmers. It's that we have rolled out debit cards for farmers. We are the only ones as of the moment, right? And we're intending to scale that up as much as we can. So yes, basically, as Winich Farms, that's what we do.
Okay.
So we provide financial services or embedded finance for the rural smallholder farmers, as well as give them market access. But it doesn't end there, because our service covers both layers, both supply and demand. I talked first from the angle of the farmers,
right,
but also from the angle of the processors, right? We are the lifeline of their businesses. Because you'd agree with me that as a processor, you need the raw materials to keep your factories and your mills running, right? So the fact that we are also helping them bridge the gap, right? Yes, some people say, but even without you guys, they've been getting products. True. But they've been getting products in an, for lack of better words, unstructured manners, right? Products just show up. You can literally not tell the quality until when they go through your own. But with us, from the moment we get maybe like your LPO or your order, you are giving us the quality you need, the quantity you need. And then over time, we've also even been able to come up with solutions for them where it now comes as a recurring request. So for the last 1 month, we've observed that you have ordered for so amount of product. Would you like us to lock that in as a recurring order, or are you intending to increase it? So you see, all of this, what we have done generally is we've been able to get data, and then with this data help both parties make very informed decisions, and then ensure that the whole system, value chain and supply chain is more effective and efficient.
In today's Nigeria, right, inflation is off the roof, and then the impact of that in fertilizer and the seeds. How do you help the farmers cushion this issue?
In having to deal with the farmers, one of the most important things that we do personally, if you would ask me, which I would say every other thing that we do rolls on the head of that, is sensitization and trainings, right? So there's the saying that says you cannot be bigger or better than what you know.
Correct.
So what you don't know completely overweighs you. And like I had said previously, of course, we're in an era and time where technology innovation is blowing up everywhere. But the truth is, when people are not privy to this information, it will not make their lives better in any way. So while everybody will be singing the song of, oh yes, technology, AI, there are still people who are living in darkness of these things completely, right? So for us, one of the things that we do is continuous sensitizations and trainings for the farmers, letting them understand that the way you do things is a mundane way, an archaic way. And we understand you've done it, because one of the things about farmers is also they can be a bit adamant. And the reason why they're adamant is because, like they'll say, when a system is not broken, you don't try to fix it, right? So this is what they've done for years and years, and they've gotten results. It is difficult to convince them that there's a better way to do it that will actually give you better results, right? So a lot of them are, I've seen my grandfather do this and my father did this, and I'm still doing it.
Right.
So how then do you want to tell me that that's the way that patience, consistency comes in, where you are consistently informing them? But beyond that, there's also things that we do sometimes, which is called demo plots. Like where all these things we have told you, all these things we have showed you, we want to demonstrate it, right? And the demonstration will be from one of them who would ask one person to volunteer just a piece of your plot. So in a situation where maybe we want to introduce a new fertilizer or a new seedling or even best practice, so that is how you are doing this, rather than putting the manual before this, you can do this. We will do a demo for them to see and say, while we are doing this, do your own. And then in the same time frame, let us see what the outcome would be. And a lot of times when they see this on their own, it is easy for them to now say, okay, it's beyond what has been said, right? So, but like I said, how that can actually first happen is the fact that you must sensitize them, you must inform them, you must teach them, you must train them. And that you taught them today or this month does not mean you are done for the year, right? Because like they'll say, repetition is the law of long and lasting impression. Is you have to stick to it consistently. People do not just change over, like they change over time. It's not instantly, right? So I think for us, that's what we have consistently done. So in season, out of season, we're ensuring that we keep engagement with the farmers. We are training them, we are sensitizing them, and then when we are introducing whatever it is that we're introducing, it becomes easy. Because the truth is, another thing is all of this is built on the base of trust.
Okay.
So first of all, they know that they have been largely marginalized. So they live a communal lifestyle. So when you can get one person to trust, to believe, to ride with you, you can go to bed and know fully well that it's just a matter of days. Every other person will come around. So while we are helping them with market access, they also know that beyond the market access, we're also giving them additional services that we really do not have to. We don't owe it to them, right? But that's our own commitment to the fact that we are interested in your growth.
Right.
Because the truth is, the more you grow, it benefits you, but we also enjoy from the benefits. So we're also willing to do what we can in our own capacity to ensure that you guys keep growing. So like you see now, that fosters every other thing.
Right.
And then from time to time, based off those who actually already work with us, we make recommendations for them sometimes in terms of fertilizers, in terms of seedlings. Sometimes we even direct them, okay, when you buy from this distributor, you let them know you are from Winich Farms. And so you see, that's the beautiful thing about the introduction of the Winich card. So what we're intending to do with that is a full blown out ecosystem. So you would be very familiar, like there are some certain cards you use around the world.
Right.
You use a platinum card, you use a master black card, it opens you to lots of services from airport lounges to top luxurious hotels. And that's the same concept that we are bringing, where as a Winich farmer, what's your identity is your card. So with that card, they're also very retailers, distributors, and all that we are in partnership with us as well. That when you go to purchase whatever you need to purchase as regards to your farming requirements, you get discounted, you get subsidized prices, you know. Basically that's the whole idea. So you see, it's beyond, we are just fully very concerned about their well-being.
In 2024, Winich Farm raised a $3 million pre-series funding for an entrepreneur, either in the Agri-Tech space or any other space. What would you like to say to that person in sourcing funds, both locally and internationally?
We started the idea of building or solving a problem. Really, this is the truth. We never knew that you could fundraise. We never knew that you could grow a business to a point where people are willing to fund the business. We never. So maybe if we had that knowledge, well, only time and chance probably can tell where we would have been by, in all honesty. Because I remember when we got into our first incubator program, right, which was the Orange Corners program in partnerships with the Kingdom of Netherlands, right? And I think this was in 2019. I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong, but stand corrected. And then that was where we're now being thought about actually building proper structures to run a business, you know, from your legal preparations to setting up proper standard systems, you know, and all of those necessary things. And then we came out as one of the top startups from that program, and we got a grant of, I think, about 5,000 euros, if I'm not mistaken. So that sets the precedent for us to move. And then coupled with a couple of other grants. So we had legal covering for 1 year, which we didn't have to cover. We had office spaces and all of that. So in fundraising first, one of the things I always like to tell people is you will think you are ready until when you get in. But to avoid all of those assumptions, right? And you don't get there and only get come smacked by your investors that you are not ready. It's a bad place to be. Is I always advise and encourage founders go through these programs, incubator programs, accelerator programs, and all the likes. Because the truth is, you cannot be too ready. There's nothing like being too ready. You cannot be over prepared. There's really nothing like that. So while you may feel like you're in a good place, an extra knowledge or information would actually put you in a better place, right? Which for us, that was what helped us. Before the 2024, we raised 3 million because we have raised funds. In 2022, we raised our pre-seed, about 800K, right? Which was our first.
800K what?
800,000 US dollars.
Okay.
Okay. So that was our first fundraising, right? Well, like I said, before we came to that, started with the whole Orange Corner program. It was from that conversation. Of course, I think it was a 1-year program where at different points you are taught even how to pitch, how to approach investors virtually, physically. Those 3 minutes demo pitches, how you get to meet an investor and in 3 minutes you're able to get their attention. All of those things are preparations that get you. Fundraising is a journey. But even before you get into that journey, there's a journey. Right? So you must be completely ready from that first journey before you get into the next journey. While fundraising can be really very strenuous, trust me, it's difficult, it's tough, it's demanding because you don't know when your investors will ask for the next demand or when they will ask for certain clarity. It comes because now you're dealing with investors across various time zones, across various. So your night is someone else's morning. And then an email can come up and then you have maybe the next 4-6 hours to respond. In a situation where it comes in when you are sleeping, it does not mean the time will stop. If they're giving you 6 hours, if you are waking up and you only have 2 hours to go, heaven and earth will come together to make up that 2 hours. Do you understand? So, but what keeps you going at the end of the day is the excitement at the end, that you know that, yes, beyond raising the money and the inflow comes in, is you know that you were able to meet all of the requirements. Like it builds your confidence, because like we know, the hardest thing anybody can do is to give somebody money. That's the reason why, before we got into it, when I hear companies raise a certain amount, I used to be, how did they? But when I came into it, I began to have much more respect for them, because to be able to convince the who's of the who's, you're also not talking about people. These are people who have learned to master money, right? So people think it's easy to really convince investors, and it's not true. It's like you as an adult, when you're talking to a child who wants to begin to play pranks, and you may be silent, but before he gets to the end, you are waiting for him there. That's the way it is with investors. You are not the only set of people they are dealing with. You are not the first. You definitely not be the last. So for us, the excitement in all of this about fundraising is knowing that at the end of it all, you were able to meet certain requirements, and then you guys can align. Because see, beyond the fact that investors give you money, you must align with their vision. What you are building, whatever, must align with their own goals. So to think that at the end of the day, these names, these networks of people, you all can eventually come to the same place where you are aligned on the same goal, you are aligned on the same vision. And for me, I think that's the joy, that's the excitement, because now they are coming in and they are a part of you. They are also looking out for the business as much as you are looking out for it, because now beyond interest, they are vested in it as well. Do you understand? So it's a journey, and it's a journey one cannot be over prepared for, right? But there are a lot of times people get into it without being ready at all. And we observed that when we actually fundraising when we were raising our first fund, there's some investors who came in on the second level that somehow we wanted to approach them on the first level, but we were happy that we didn't. Because obviously as it grows, the level of due diligence, the attention to details and all of these things obviously increases. But I think I'll say until you are ready for it, don't go into it.
Okay.
Because if you go in when you're not ready, you can be burnt so much so that it affects even the future fundraising you want to do. As investors are like the first impression idea. You cannot make a first impression on the second impression. Do you understand?
Very well.
If you don't get it right the first time, you require much more to do it on the second time. So until you think you are ready, until you have assessed that you are ready, take your time. It's good to bootstrap. Bootstrapping is difficult, it's tough, but if you have to bootstrap until you are ready, then, because like one of the things Pastor used to say, now we're in a time where it's not a challenge of unavailability of money. No, money is flowing much more than you can think. But the truth is, have you built yourself to be where people can be reliant on you? Can they trust that if we give you this money, there will be value to come out of it? Because especially within the African ecosystem, we've seen lots of sad stories. We've seen companies that have raised tens and millions, even hundreds of dollars, that eventually...
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes, that eventually, at some point, they had to close shop. So these things also create lasting impressions and effects as people come in, right? So if you are not ready, don't rush it, don't force it until you are ready. And to get ready takes a lot of work in itself. Getting ready is not sitting and saying, when I'm ready, no. Sitting and waiting for when you are ready is doing the work. There's work also that has to be put in place until when you are ready. So I think that will be my take and my advice for fundraising, both for the young ones, those already in the business, and while you may think you are, assess yourself, audit yourself, right? When you think you want to, because the truth is with investors are not going to be kind with you. Okay, let me not use kind. Investors are not going to be subtle with you. They will not come, because they're coming with money too.
Absolutely.
But beyond even money, a lot of them come with much value. The networks, the rooms they open you to, right? They also don't want to open an idiot to those kind of rooms. Do you understand? They don't want to do those things and go back to say, are you sure we did not make a mistake, right? So it's a lot of development and you must invest in yourself. You must be able to trust this thing that you are doing a whole lot. And then there must be records that also tell the story, But again, investment varies. It depends on the kind of investment you are looking for. That would also help the kind of investors you approach. There are investors that are very revenue centric.
Okay.
They're very interested about your numbers. What are the numbers? There are some other investors that are more geared towards impact. They don't really care whether you are profitable or not. They're more interested about these solutions, what's the impact in the lives of people, right? So, like I said, it's a journey. You need to do all of those analysis inward. Why are we raising this money? Do we even need to raise the money?
Okay.
So when you answer those internal questions first, when it's okay, yes, we need to raise the money. Who are the set of investors we are looking forward to? The funds we are raising it for what? Is it on impact based or is revenue based? You ask all of those questions and all of. At the end of the day, and then with that, it begins to now help you gear towards the kind of investors that. Debt can also be an investment, which helps you for running capital. Right. So if it is a debt financing you need, then you don't need to approach equity investors, people who want to come and have a stake on the table. So there's just a lot of work that needs to be done internally. But one of the things I always say, don't rush it. The money will not finish today. The money will not finish next month. Right? The money will still always be here. You just take your time and do the work. Ensure that you are ready. So yeah, I think that would be my take on fundraising.
Amazing. Okay. For Winich Farms, and this is your journey in entrepreneurship, what has been the most difficult challenge you have faced? Pick them, one of it.
I will be able to pick one. I think I can do two.
Okay.
I will do two. The truth is there are a lot. There are a whole lot. But like I said, I'll do two. And the first would be people.
Okay.
People are the lifeline of every business.
Correct.
a business does not stand without people, right? And only you cannot make your business.
Not at all.
So you still require people. Getting the right sets of people, people who either believe in the vision and are willing to put in the work, or people who do not just become lackadaisical as a result, or people who, a lot of times you see CVs that speak a lot, and then when you literally have to engage the people, you can see the huge discrepancy between the CV and the person, right? So people would, maybe I would rank people as the number one.
Okay.
Because like I said, in every other aspect of the journey it still eventually has to involve people.
Correct.
Right. And then the second one will be infrastructure for me, especially considering where we come from.
Okay.
Talking about Nigeria, talking about Africa as a whole, we are a place with a deficit of infrastructure. A lot of times what we know how to do a whole lot, is launch, start, build. But there's always never considerations into infrastructures that keep these things going. And then that's where for us, a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we I don't want to say we get to suffer, but we are pushed to that point where we eventually now have to build the infrastructures, right? When you want to compare it to other part of the world, the Western part of the world, you are coming to build a business where all the infrastructures has already been put into place. So it's easy. You need a data bank where you can drop information, bam, it's quick to get it. You need to get some level of policy making and bam, it's quick. But for here, so that's one of the things that somewhat I will still take a tap at the back for what we have done. In everything that I've talked about a whole lot of data. But it's to think that for us, we were able to generate our own data organically, like boots on the ground, boots in the field, to come up with every single data that we have had to work with. That literally tells you it's been, years and years and years and years and years of work. Even up until now, we're still collecting data. But imagine it was a situation where I needed to get this data and I just have to probably plug my IP into a server or
an existing structure.
Just get that. Do you know years of work that would have saved? Do you understand? So infrastructure still ranks, and then when I talk about infrastructure, it's a lot. Is it from logistics? It's a lot. Like it's a whole lot to electricity. It's a lot. Like right, and these things actually, whether you like it or not, it hampers how fast a company would always grow. I know a lot of companies who have had to close down because the infrastructures are not there, and they don't even have what it takes on their own to build the infrastructures. So imagine let's take back a little bit, maybe some 4 or 5 years ago, how some companies that had built and that even began were already profitable by the release of certain news. Business closes completely. For those who were not quick or who did not have the ability to be able to remodel, re-strategize into something, that's the end, right? So people would come first, infrastructure would come next for me.
So I was talked about the most difficult challenge. Let's come to the other side. What has been your best win on this journey as Winich Farm and as an entrepreneur?
For me, the high point of all of it is seeing the level of impact, seeing how lives of people are being changed. Beyond that is also bringing people to my same thought pattern to let them know while this is good, it can be better. While this is better, there's still something called the best. Do you understand? So that highlights it all for me. The whole journey, the whole sleepless night, the whole struggle is to see the impact that it brings to the lives of everyday people. Brings to the life of those who have literally been forgotten. People who somewhat there was really no longer hope. Maybe as a result of cultural effects or tradition or environment or even location, right? We've been able to reach them, and then somewhat you can see life become better That for me just ranks it all.
For an entrepreneur out there or any young person out there who has listened to all you've shared about your journey and all you're doing with Winich Farms and is interested in becoming an Agri-Tech farmer like yourself, what's the best advice you've received that you'd like to share with the person?
There are a couple of them, but why I wouldn't say this ranks as number one, I think this resonates with my own personality. That's what bettered everything that I have become now. Is what my pastor used to say early then. He says, don't chase money. Say, never chase money. He says, look for a problem and solve it. See, when you do it very good enough, he says the money will chase you, right? Why is this important? You know, a lot of times the idea for many people of starting businesses is the whole glam and I'm the CEO, I'm a business owner, and a lot of times you see that's the reason why the businesses don't last. Because you would agree with me that the easiest part of every business is always the launch. The launch is the easiest part of any business, right? But the middle is the legendary part. That's where the work is done. You know, that's the place where you set up the systems, the structures. Rather than chasing 10 things, you focus on just one thing, you know, getting to understand your customer base even one layer deeper. You know, that's the real work. So what I would advise any one of them is, if your excitement about a business is about launching a business, then maybe you should not start a business, right? Because maybe you just don't know. You see, I don't think I've seen any launch of any business that was not glamorous or that was not fine or that was not exciting, right? So if that's the case, it means your own launch will not be any different. That you are going to launch a business there will be nothing unique about it.
Right.
What will be the unique thing is when you come back 5-7 years after, will they be able to say, okay, he is still standing? Because it's not everybody who launch that will be standing after 5 to 7 years.
Correct.
Right? So until you can put your mind to say that's what you want to do, that's when you can actually say you are doing anything different, right? Because that's normal. That's the normal statistics. That's the normal data. Data says that most businesses, most startup is expected to close down between 3 to 5 years. So if you have that ability to be able to scale through it, it doesn't still mean you would not close down. But now you have been able to cross that threshold that gives you a possibility that you could last way longer, right? So I think that should be my advice. Look out for a problem and be deliberate, be intentional to solve it. But when you are doing that, don't ensure that the money is what you are chasing. When you do that, from the get-go, I can tell that you will not go anywhere. But when your intention is intentionally wanting to solve a problem, and when you do it good enough, the monies will come.